Welcome, and today we're going to be doing a product review of the DM screen, or referee screen as they call it, for Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea. Just got this in, and as you can see, good art all the way across, which is really cool because it really kind of sets the tone of the game of Hyperborea. You see some ape men and things like that. Very, very cool art. I can't speak enough about. I love the art style they put with these. But as I go through this, I do want to say that I'm generally pretty critical of these because I find a lot of times the information that I want is not on the DM screen. So a lot of times I find I put little post-it notes, or I've got all these extra little charts everywhere that I need. So I'm very curious to see if they did actually put the information. I made a list. We'll see if it's in here. So stay tuned. We'll see how good they did, and if this is worth your $20 if you're going to be playing this game, which I recommend that you do. So as we dive into the DM screen, or referee screen as they call it, for this game, I went ahead and made a list of the things that I expected to see on this. The things that I saw were important information I needed to have quickly that I didn't want to thumb through the book for. And on the very first page of the 4 pages that we get on the screen itself, I find the very first thing I asked for, which was I wanted all the tables, the different stats, because unlike other games, this is important information to have. If you look on your strength and dexterity, you have your test of strength, test of dexterity chart, so you can quickly reference. If the player doesn't know what they need to roll, then you have it in front of you. These are like your acrobatics and your athletics type of checks. Also, the extraordinary feat of strength and dexterity. But this is also information that you need to have for your NPCs as well, or their hirelings. So anything that you need to know what they can do, I like having right in front of me. This was something I was going to sticky note if it wasn't on here. So I'm glad that I have an entire page dedicated to this, and it's big, it's easy to read, and it's important. The other thing that I saw in here that I was really wanting to have was the progressive thief abilities down at the bottom. You see, when you look down here, I want to know what people need to roll. A lot of times I try to keep the game moving fast. And if I see a player, especially in the beginning of the game, we're all kind of getting used to things, kind of fumbling around looking for, I can quickly reference and say, okay, what's your dexterity, or what's your stat, what are you level? I can already tell you what you need to roll. Just make the roll. So I try to cut down. I feel like it also kind of helps the learning process when I go through and say, you're this, you need this, and I like to have all that information in front of me. Calculated encumbrance was something I didn't think I would need, but honestly, this is one of those things where some people play with encumbrance, some people don't. In this type of game, I kind of feel like you need to, because it's more of a realistic fantasy game, if there is such a thing, and I think it's kind of a core part of the game is how much treasure you can find and physically bring back. A lot of times players are having to make tough choices on, do I want to carry all this back? Maybe that plate mail is just too heavy to carry back, and so I really don't need it. Those are interesting things, and some people won't use it, but I will tell you that is a chart that if I needed it, it might take me a minute to find it, so I'm glad that it's already here waiting for me. So far, so good. As we go over to the second screen, we go on to what's called a combat matrix. Now, this is something in the world of THAC0, which is the old way of doing armor class. This was something that was really in vogue and popular. So people could say, I know what my fighting ability is. You look at the chart on the left, and I roll my dice, and I can tell you what armor class that I hit. I realize that some people like this. I personally don't. I can quickly figure out THAC0 is pretty easy. If the guy has an AC of 6, that means I need to 6 taken from 20 is 14. That's the number you need to roll. So it's really easy. I can do it quick. Hey, I know you need a 14 to roll this. You roll. You tell me what your bonuses are. That's pretty easy. That's standard fare now. Hey, I rolled a 12. I get +1 for my fighting ability. I'm mastered in that weapon. That gets me to 14. Congratulations, you hit. I can do that pretty quick. I personally don't need the matrix. Now, some people love the matrix and live by it, and some people, as they're kind of getting used to THAC0, really like it. So I'm glad that it's in here. Me personally, if I'm gonna put a sticky note, that's where I'm gonna put it, because I don't personally need it, but it's there. Attack roll modifiers next to it, table 87. That is a huge one. I'm glad it's there. It was on my list. because a lot of times, whatever conditions you are with ranged missile weapons, or if you're attacking on different ground, higher ground matters in this game. And there are all these little. The game can be kind of crunchy with the numbers, but that's the old school flavor of the game. Newer versions go to like fifth editions, like you either get advantage or disadvantage. And while that's cool and it's quick and it's streamlined, some people like to go back and say, I want to really try to maximize every little piece that I can. I like that. It's just a different style of play. Um, Weapon attack penalty, not something that I would use a whole lot, but in a pinch, I'm glad that it's there so I don't have to look for it. Attack rate, rate of fire. This was another on my list of things I really wanted to have there, particularly as I'm newer to this game and remembering different weapons have different attack speeds depending on your level. Do you have a mastery in that weapon? Like if you look at a melee weapon, any sword is 1-to-1. I mean, every round you attack once. That's levels 1 to 6, and then it goes up to 3-2, meaning you attack once in the first round and then twice in the second round. If you're a master of that weapon, it moves up faster, and eventually you get to where you swing twice every round. I like the fact they went ahead and put that in there. Ranged weapons are different. So this was information that I think will trip up a lot of games when you're trying to move fastly through combat. So combat doesn't look like a slog, is to remember exactly how all these things roll out. So that to me is absolutely perfect. I'm glad that it's in there. The picture kind of cut out, but the 2-weapon fighting chart down at the bottom, 2-weapon fighting is based off of dexterity. I'm glad that's in there. I think it's one of those things once you're making a character and they already know they're going to be dual wielding, they'll kind of already have that information, but I'm glad that it's there. Table 89 over here, basic combat sequence. That's something that's kind of unique to this game. I don't want to say unique, but it was unique to me. Is phased combat and what you can do in phase 1 and phase 2. So we still go in the rounds, but in this game there is a first phase and a second phase. So if you hold your action, you actually slide down to the second phase. And you can kind of break up your actions between the phases. Now, most of the time, everything happens in the first phase, but unless you're strategically saying, hey, I want to move back in the first phase and just kind of watch what happens, and then once I see how the melee breaks out, then I'm going to make my decision on casting certain spells or my targets, things like that. So I like that. Table 98 is one that I had on my list that I wanted to have on there because I love this, and I love the fact that it's different in this game, but I love the critical hit results. It's different depending on what class you are, and if you roll a critical, a 20, you then roll a d6 to see the level, like the scaling of how good of a crit it is. It can be you did a couple extra points of damage, it can go all the way to triple the damage. So I like that Yahtzee feel of, okay, it's a big hit. How big is it? I like that. It's something I played around with in my youth. Is we would do those types of things, and sometimes I would say, well, if you roll the 6, you cut the guy's head off. It's like a Vorpal blade. I like that type of RNG in the game. So the next slide, turn undead chart absolutely was on my list because this is important because undead is something that is pretty prevalent in Hyperborea. In a lot of campaigns, we even in 5th edition D&D, a lot of times undead is prominent depending on the campaign. And in this case, you need some type of, it's almost like a chart you have to follow to say, okay, what's your turning ability? And then you roll your d12 and it kind of tells you what you can turn versus destroy. This is very dead on with AD&D. I'm glad that chart's here. The system for that can be a little wonky unless you have the information in front of you, and if you have it in front of you, it's very quick to understand. Okay, it's this, it's this, it's this. Easy. So glad that's there. Saving throws. This is one of those things that you don't necessarily need to know this in the heat of it, because it's breakdown by how many hit dice the creature or the player has, and the saving throw gets better. However, it's a small chart. I think it fits perfectly where it is on the page, so I like to have it there. Totally fine. Saving item throws. Okay, item saving throws. Okay, so this is one of those charts that some people will never use, and I think it was kind of a mistake. Other people will say, oh, I need it, and then they got to go flip through the book, and they can't find it because the book is 600 pages, so you want to have as much information on demand as possible. So I'm glad this is in there. It wasn't on my list, to be honest, but seeing it here, I'm glad that it's there. It's one of those oh yeah, I'm totally glad they put that there. light sources, monetary exchange, those are nice things to have. Overland travel, terrain effects on movement, all of those, and I like how they put all that together. It's kind of your carousing, traveling. Those are all good things to have. Becoming lost is a big thing in this game because of Hyperborea and the way that the sun works and the different moons. It's very easy to get lost, especially if you don't have a ranger or tracker or a woodsman with you that may help with that. So I like the fact that that's there. Again, that's one of those charts that maybe some people will never use, but if you do need to use it, I'd rather have it right here than go thumbing through the book. So, all right. This was the thing that I was like, that's probably not on there, but I'm going to put it on my list, is the list of melee weapons. The reason is that a lot of times a DM can kind of remember what certain weapons do, a D6, D8, 2d6, it's kind of where we live. Daggers a d4, we all know that. But in this game, it's a little different because certain weapons that we're used to, like a two-handed sword in other editions, would be 2d6. Here's 3d4. So I'm glad this chart is here, but it's not necessarily for the damage. It's for the WC, the weapon category on the left-hand side of this chart. That is why I'm glad this is here. Because there's a rule in this game when in the first part of combat, when you're first engaging, they call it first strike. You run up to the orc. Let's say the orc gets advantage or has initiative on you, and he runs up and he's wielding a hand axe, and you have a pike. So there's a rule that the first time you guys go into combat, first strike, whoever has the biggest weapon class gets to swing first. Period. It doesn't matter on initiative. And it makes sense. If I have a pike and something is charging towards me, I should be able to stab it first. So I'm glad that's there, because while that example is super easy, I might not remember that a quarterstaff is a 3 and a morning star is a 2. So the quarterstaff is going to get to attack before the guy with the morning star. So those types of things are very important. So I am shocked that that's in here. I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm glad that it's there. Thumbs up to the playtesters or whoever said to put that in there. That was absolutely a sticky note that I was going to have to put somewhere, so I'm glad that's there. Also with missile weapons, I'm glad they have the ranges on here. Overall, I'm very happy with this guide. They also have a PDF that you can download on their resources that has some additional charts and stuff that you want. But honestly, I feel like this is absolutely what you want. And for $20, the art that you get on the front of it is great. All the information is here. I think it's well worth the $20 to pick this up. So if you're going to be running this game, I highly recommend just go ahead and pick up the screen as well. It's fantastic. I think they have some packages on their website if you want to get like all the things that you need to run the game. But this, absolutely recommend picking up. So if you have any questions or comment, or if you like this type of content on the channel and you'd like to see more of it, please subscribe. Let me know what you like. We want to kind of cater to what you guys are into, but right now I'm really digging this game. I think they've done an amazing job with game design, and again, love the art. So anyway, love to hear any feedback you've got. Until next time, keep rolling with advantage. Thanks.